Hello, welcome back to our weekly transits. And I've set this for a few hours later just because I like to line things up when possible. Tonight or later, we are going to, it depends on where you're in the world, we are having our monthly moon conjunct Uranus over here in 23 degrees Taurus. And if you have anything at 23 degrees or in this spot in Taurus, it could be lively. The moon might bring something suddenly out of the blue. Um, it might challenge your stability. It might be moody or upset about stability. Something might upset your stability. Um, If you definitely have anything around those degrees, I would check that out. But that's always sudden, and then that's always, of the moon or motions. Other than that, yesterday, actually, let me just back up, and it was Saturday that Venus turned retrograde, and we're coming into eclipse season. We also are going to have Mercury retrograde soon. Yesterday, Mercury went into Aries. So we can see over here on this right-hand side of the chart, we have Venus already at, in her retrograde time. And a retrograde for Venus is about 43 days, 40-ish days. And it's funny, she's at 10 degrees. Mercury will go retrograde at 9 degrees Aries. So look for those areas in your chart. But we've got the pack starting to separate out of some of this muddled Pisces stuff. But we still have it there, and it's still going to be intense. It's going to be there as the sun starts moving and conjuncting over these last degrees. But we'll talk about that in a moment. So we can see that this pack, even though we have a lot of things really close together, the Mercury and Venus are starting to separate a little bit. Um, they will retrograde back into Pisces, but that by that time we'll have the sun going through Aries. So we'll have a little back and forth with this, this area. And we've talked about this area, and we'll probably talk about it till we're blue in the face. This little bit of area between Pisces and Aries, the end of the end, and then the beginning of the beginning. This is a really, really big time for ending cycles, for putting things away, for putting things to bed, for getting things just done on so many levels, on personal levels, on the world levels. It's as above, so below as above, um, working through this. And then when we have both both Mercury and Venus retrograde in Aries, going back into Pisces, this is definitely area for um, you know, settlements, resolving old problems, getting through old hurts, old wounds with people, going back over stuff, Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde. It's the time to redo. And then Venus there, um, and then going over that North Node and going over, the end of Neptune, it's all, Pisces is also healing. It's also creative, imaginative, it's sweet. But with the Neptune there, it kind of adds for a little confusion. So just be careful on that level. And, um, if you're paying attention to your inner self, just don't be stupid. Don't be altruistic or thinking that things are just always going to work out or whatever. It may not without effort, and we have Saturn over there in that mix. So it is definitely, you have to put in the hard work. You have to put in the effort to make something smooth, to work it out. But, it's all those areas of the chart there are going to be very sensitive. Again, old wounds, clearing up old problems, old rifts. Um, I don't want to say settling old scores, but making good and then apologizing, seeing people, being the bigger person, not holding grudges. That's what all this time is there. And right now in the world, we've got big peace negotiations going on, with President Trump and Midget Zelensky. uh, and all of that nonsense that's going on, but he's really settling in for that. But that doesn't, that's not really good for the globalists to not have a war. So, we have these things back and forth. So I think the war should be against the globalists. And, people need to find out about all of that crap, that fraud, that stuff has been infiltrating everything. I don't know whatever word we all want to give it, but there's definitely corruption all over, and that's the stuff that's got to stop. That's the end of this Pisces nebulous things fuzzing out before we restart stuff. It's like we have to go through and gut out all the rot, all the bad rotted wood kind of things, all of the things, the you got to smooth over the bad and old relationships or make it right in your mind or however that is. That is that time for all of that right in here. So we're gonna be seeing this like for the next year. But we have Venus and Mercury retrograding into that zone, into that area. And then we have Neptune breaking out of that, going next, at the end of March, at the end of this month, it'll be going into Aries, and then pretty soon Saturn will follow that. So yeah, there's a lot of dynamicness right in this degree. Other than that, there's not a lot of big deal stuff going on. This week we start out, with our Taurus moon, that's all creature comforts. It's hedonism, it's chocolate, it's curling up with cuddling on the couch, being secure, making sure you have your money, your security, your home, whatever it is that's bringing you security, your comfort foods, their blankie, your binky, all there. And then we move into, busy Gemini. Then the pace picks up. Moon will be, as it goes through Gemini, it will go over Jupiter, so that will be loud and noisy. And then as it goes through Gemini, it will be making squares to all the Pisces things, so it can be a little gnarly with the sun and with Saturn, a little challenging, a little flippant. And then it will straighten out, once it gets, past Neptune and goes into Aries. Goes into well, let me just say it this way. As it's making those um squares over to the Pisces planets, it will also be making sextiles over to the Aries planets. So, it's going to get a little help. It's going to get a little bit of help from Venus and Mercury being in Aries. So that will be nice. It will kind of feed this, but um, uh, it's we've got that tension um, that tension with the squares. So, as it moves, as the sun continues to move, it will, it's already past its square with um, Jupiter. But then as Jupiter moves on, it will get the squares with this. Okay, so we've got that little bit of a dynamic going on. So moon, again, yeah, moon will finish that. That's where I was going with the moon. So moon will have all those aspects here when it goes into Gemini. It will get loud and noisy because again, it'll be doing both sextiles and squares with all of this stuff, and then it kind of pops out and not so noisy. So then we also have this week, then as we get all that noise, the moon is over the weekend, it goes into Cancer. Um, as it goes into Cancer, we have the sun will also be making some trines. I'll get there in a moment. But then we have that little, comfy Cancer home, nesting, working around the home, putzing, family kind of energy. And then the beginning of the week, it goes into bombastic Leo. So it's just kind of where the moon is at. So what else am I going to say about that? Yeah, and so we get a kind of a nice area, a nice time before we head into, all the retrogrades. So get things done before we head on into that. Okay, that was a lot, but that was like the big part of the week. All right, coming into Wednesday, the biggest thing is Mercury, making a sextile over to Pluto. Actually, it was like it's right here. So information, now Mercury is in Aries, so we have really aggressive, sharp, fast moving, penetrating, getting to just the facts, in that nice sextile with Pluto. So really maybe getting to the bottom of a lot of stuff, and I can see this in the world, definitely United States, with Doge, with President Trump, with all the investigations, with rooting out a lot of the things in government, whenever a government is defunct, is bankrupt, you know, any kind of bankruptcy things have to go, and then we've been bankrupt, but all of that area has to be investigated. It has to be gone through. It has to be audited, and that's what's happening. All of that corruption and all that stuff is being audited. So we have that, anything with Pluto, we've got, power, transformation, death, rebirth. And Mercury there is given the information. Mercury can go to hell and back and not a problem. It just reports on the information. So we have that happening, and then Mercury will come back, it'll retrograde back, so it's going to get it again. So it's going to be around this degree for a little while. So we've got information coming out. Okay, Wednesday. What else going on Wednesday? Mainly moon aspects. The moon, like I said, it's going to be making all of that stuff to all of this stuff. It's going to be, simultaneously making squares and sextiles to all of these guys. So Wednesday could be kind of a busy, intense, crazy kind of day. All right. I'm sorry, Thursday. Wednesday into Thursday, it definitely can be packed because the moon is there for a couple days. Coming into Friday, though, we get the moon settling down, moving into Cancer. But then this is what's interesting. We have the exact Sun, um, Mars trine that day. It can be really nice, right there at 17 degrees. Well, the moon's in Pisces and Mars is in Cancer, so it's making a really sweet, nice trine. It's I don't know, sweet. It's imaginative. It's intuitive. It's a nice conversation with the Sun and Mars. Mars is, in its not its most aggressive place. And I don't want to say, it's a weak place, but it's its fall, but it's not its strongest place, but it's strong on a different front. And then when it gets blessed with the sun, it could be really creative, really inspiring, a really good day maybe to reach out to someone or to people or to something uh, that might need to be reached out to. Okay, so that's nice. And that's going to kind of carry on into the next day. And what's interesting now is even though the sun will move on to 18, it'll still be an orb with Mars. And then the moon will then conjunct all of that. So I think I have it set for that. Yeah. So Saturday, um, the Mars moves into 18 degrees. Moon, when it finally gets there at 18 degrees, and Sun will have moved into 18. So Saturday we have them two riding together because they're like right around the same speed, just kind of close. Um, so we get that trine for like the whole weekend, and then when the moon's over there, that's really interesting. So the moon and Mars, they're not the best buds because Mars is aggressive, moon is feeling, but um, you know, the moon trumps the situation here because it's in its own sign, and I think and then Mars is in its fall, so I think Mars will relent to the moon. So what does that mean? It means that I think there'll be a lot more feeling on the home and family. I think Mars will be protective of the home and family. I think it'll be um, a good a good maybe good to clean the house, good to visit family, good to, help do something around the home, energy for home and family, that kind of an energy. And then, or to get creative at home, because we're in Pisces there too, and it's trining over there. It could be a good, relaxing weekend, but this is just really nice and really sweet kind of an energy. Saturday. So yeah, look forward to that day. That could be nice. What else do I have for Saturday? Oh, yeah, yeah, Saturday night, we changed is that what we have? No, what do I have here? Oh, yeah, yeah, I had the sun exact. Oh, okay, so the sun, why do I have this at? Oh, okay, yeah, I just made myself a note, never mind. Right. The sun is there Saturday. Anything else I wanted to say? Oh yeah, it's also a really dynamic time for last minute things, for any projects, anything you want to do, get going, before Mercury kind of slows and retrogrades. And Mercury will retrograde 14th or 15th, depending on where you're at in the world. So that's like barely a week away. And it will go through retrograde. I think it turns on April 7th. Yeah, it's like it's stationary in the 6th. My birthday. And then it's still in its shadow for a bit after that. So get anything happening now. Get anything happening, this week. Sign contracts, but don't buy anything. Don't do any major purchases because Venus is retrograde and this does not pan out. I'll say I didn't warn you, unless you have to, but just be really careful. Dot your I's, cross your T's, look over things, make sure it's something you really like. All right. Anything else I wanted to tell you about that? Okay, we got that trine riding for a couple of days. Um, yeah, the moon will be while the moon is in Cancer, it will be making trines over to to the sun and, as it moves on into the later degrees, over to Saturn and then into the South Node and then over to Neptune. So as moon goes over, trines over to Neptune, so that will be later Saturday, Sunday. Just I'm always cautious of that because there's so much deception and fraud and miscommunications. Just kind of watch there, be on guard, make sure that you speak and understand everything clearly here as we get into the later weekend and early Monday. All right, so Sunday, um, we have that's when daylight savings time begin, 2 in the morning. Don't forget about that. I've got to set the clocks thing. If you're in the area that does that. So, yeah, the moon will go, yeah, we already talked about it going over to trining Saturn and all that. And then it moves into lively Leo. So we have, Sunday picking up, dramatic, lively Leo. It kind of gets rid of or out of some of that maybe modeling stuff with sticky energies or anything like that you might have had to deal with. I mean, it could be really romantic and really nice as well, creative, daydreamy, but then it kind of gets like, okay, enough. I got to get off the couch. You just got to get moving now. So that action and that drama and that life kind of energy will come back Sunday. So some more energy might come in, because when the moon is over there in its own sign with Mars, it could be not so energetic, where now when the moon pops out, it might, energy might kind of come back for doing things. All righty, what else? Else do we got with moon? That's the biggest thing. Then we come into, you can see as we get on into the week, we're going to come into the opposition here with the sun. Let's just look ahead real quick. We got that. Oop. There we go. And there's just almost our opposition there, almost our full moon next week, which will be a eclipse at the same time. But we'll talk about that next week. But just so we see what's lining up here. And we got our chart, interesting kind of paralleling. It's starting to pull together a little bit. We've got this big lineup over here, and then we got a few sprinkled planets. But now everything's going to start to shift and move. It doesn't look like much, but we're going to see, look, we've got Uranus near the end of its sign. Jupiter is going to start moving really fast. Mars just went direct, so it's going to be moving fast and then moving out of there. We're going to have, Mercury just changed. That's always fast. It's with the sun. Venus just changed. Neptune is going to change. The sun changes every month, and then Saturn is going to change. So it's coming. It is coming, this whole lineup of everything changing, we are in it. So make sure that again, you maybe make some notes or journal or write it down or because it's moving fast. It's just definitely moving really fast. All right. Just back to where we're going to be next week. Okay, so we'll reconvene here next week with a conjunction of Venus and Mercury, both in Aries over at 8 degrees. Uh-huh. Yep. And then, earlier that day when the moon was, back into Leo a little bit, it will have made a trine over to that. Uh-huh. So there could be some, a lot of energy there on Monday. Let me just go back. Yeah, see, Venus is retrograding on top of, going toward Mercury, and then we have, that just passed it. Let me just get you the time while we're just finishing up here. There we go. Well, it's 8, let's see, 9, there's 8 degrees. So like 11:30 in the morning, Monday morning, we've got that real interesting, moon, um, trine, Venus and Mercury. So that can be very energetic. That can be like very emotionally freeing. It could be very dramatic. Really maybe watch for how you say things. You could say things really sharp, really curt, really to the point. Um, I don't want to say scathing, but it could just be aggressive. It could be fast speech. It could be um, focused and to the point as well. So yeah, so anyway, that's what I kind of wanted to end off with that because we're coming in there Monday. But yeah, that might be, note that little time there when we got that real fiery moon and then going over the two planets there in Aries, making a nice trine. And we got two of them coming up. We've got the Pisces one with the sun, what was it? Um, and then we have this one here coming up with the moon, or this yeah, sun and moon. Um, but then look here, gosh, you can just it keeps opening up. Um, the sun is just about ready to conjunct over with Saturn. And then those two will be like sextile over to Uranus. You see that? So next week we'll get into that more, but there it is. It's like right there, sun and there. And let's see, go one more. Oh, I got it. Oops, I'm wondering what the heck. Like it's going too slow. Okay, there we go. Okay, so 21. This says so Tuesday, see, watch it's 20. Just look up here, 21, and then it'll be 22. So it'll be exact on Wednesday. And then this Saturn and Uranus are real close, so it's getting more within orb, but then the sun will make that on the next day there. Oh, nope, it's got to be 2 days. Okay. So we can see how those two are lining up, but we'll get on into this next week. All righty. I hope you enjoyed that and can take advantage of this nice weekend and get all your pre-Mercury retrograde things done. Try to back up stuff as much as possible. You know the routine. All right. More to follow. Bye for now.